Action!
Scenarios from Africa is a continent-wide community mobilization, education and media process that involves 5 main phases. International script writing competitions, in which young people create stories for short films on HIV/AIDS. The selection of winning scripts by multidisciplinary juries. The transformation of those ideas into fiction films by Africa's leading directors. Distribution of the films in a multitude of languages across numerous media platforms. And in-depth analysis of the stories written during the competitions. Scenarios from Africa draws inspiration from the highly successful French project, 3,000 Scenarios Against a Virus.
Je suis séropositive.
Être jeune, c'est rêver. Qui dit rêver dit imaginer. Qui dit imaginer dit créer.
Every couple of years since 1997, Scenarios from Africa international script writing competitions have been kicked off at ceremonies across the continent.
Les jeunes ont leur part dans la réponse à l'épidémie. Les jeunes ne sont pas là juste pour recevoir de l'information, mais ils peuvent participer à leur manière à la réponse à l'épidémie.
To date, over 145,000 young people from 47 countries have taken part by creating a story for a short film on HIV/AIDS. At least 5 times that many people have directly benefited from Scenarios contest-related activities.
Le message est passé à la radio, j'étais assis en train de manger et tout juste quand j'ai entendu un message où on demandait aux jeunes de s'exprimer. En fait, les jeunes avaient la parole. Bon, je n'ai pas hésité parce que j'avais beaucoup de choses à partager.
Participants range in age from 4 to 24, with an average age of 16. A majority of participants take part in mixed teams, with girls and boys, young men and young women spending hours or even weeks learning about each other's perspectives as they create their stories. Young people are free to participate in groups or on their own.
J'ai fait mon scénario seul.
Pourquoi?
Parce que pour moi, faire mes idées seul, ça me suffit.
J'ai gagné le concours avec mes camarades de classe. Nous étions 5. Je voudrais surtout dire aux jeunes de s'y mettre, de participer, parce que le sida, ça nous concerne. Ça nous concerne tous.
The contests help to confront the growing problem of AIDS fatigue among young people. Many participants are energized by the fact that their ideas are at the very heart of Scenarios from Africa, a stark departure from routinely being considered mere target groups. The contests also foster personal reflection and increase self-efficacy on key matters relating to HIV/AIDS, for example by helping young people to take a critical and constructive look at their own sexual behavior. Participants seize upon the contest as a highly useful pretext to break the ice and to talk with others about HIV/AIDS and related topics, often silenced because of social taboos. On average, participants talk with 5 different people about HIV/AIDS while developing their texts, especially friends, classmates, and family members. Over 60% of participants say that it was thanks to the contest that they discussed HIV/AIDS with certain people for the very first time in their lives. The contests contribute to the creation of an enabling environment for an open, constructive dialogue on HIV/AIDS throughout society.
Avant le concours, je parlais jamais de VIH avec mes amis, mes camarades de classe, tout ça là. Mais c'est grâce au concours que j'ai commencé à en parler avec certains camarades, avec des amis. Ça a permis de mieux me familiariser avec eux, de savoir comment ils font, comment ils vivent pour éviter le VIH.
Bonsoir mes sœurs.
The contests successfully encourage young people to seek out information and to conduct personal research about HIV. This results in greater familiarity with and use of available sources of information. Over half of all participants visit HIV documentation centers, while creating their scenarios, many for the first time in their lives.
Tous les jeunes qui participent, à mon avis, au concours gagnent quelque chose. Parce que ce qu'ils gagnent, pour moi, c'est l'information qu'ils récoltent auprès des autres par rapport à la lutte contre le sida. Ça, c'est le premier prix que chaque participant gagne au concours.
Ok, donc le test il est anonyme.
The number of young people getting tested for HIV at partner organizations' test centers often goes up dramatically during the contests. At first, this was an unintended spin-off benefit of the process, brought on by greater contact between young people and AIDS service organizations during the contests. Now, the Scenarios contest teams strategically incorporate testing campaigns into their efforts to encourage participation. Perhaps most importantly, the Scenarios from Africa contests develop empathy with those most directly affected by the epidemic. One way this is accomplished is by encouraging participants to slip into the shoes of people living with HIV as they create their texts.
Je me suis basé sur un poème et je voulais vous dire que ce concours-là m'a poussé à aller voir quelqu'un qui était atteint de ce VIH-là, quelque chose que je n'avais jamais fait avant. Ça m'a poussé à aller voir cette personne qui m'a expliqué son mal-être, cette façon, ce sentiment d'infériorité par rapport aux autres, ce sentiment de ne pas être inclus un peu dans la société.
Special care is taken to ensure that particularly vulnerable young people can and do take part in the contest. Contest teams include organizations working on behalf of refugees, young people living with HIV, men who have sex with men, commercial sex workers, young people in prisons, girls in the care of social services, street kids, the disabled, and orphans. Many of these young people take part in the contests in small confidential groups with the guidance of a mentor. The mentors help the participants deal with HIV-related questions, personal experiences, and feelings that come to the surface while they create their stories together. This strategy of mentored participation has proven to be highly beneficial for everyone involved. During the process, the mentors gain a much deeper understanding of the perspectives and concerns of the people they serve. The group participants also get to know each other better, and new and often lasting lines of communication are developed. In many cases, the mentored participants open up to one another about sensitive personal issues for the first time. Mentors then watch as such sessions turn into in-depth, compassionate dialogues of peer support and encouragement. The contests are implemented at country level by teams of primary partner organizations carefully selected by the Scenarios from Africa national coordinators. Women and people living with HIV always play central roles in those teams. The primary partner organizations in turn mobilize their own outreach workers, media contacts, allies in state bodies and schools to reach out to contest participants. Over 1,500 organizations are involved in carrying out a given edition of the contest. International media and internet campaigns complement the national team's efforts. An increasing percentage of contest entries is sent in via email. The contests build relationships between the various organizations that carry them out, leading to better collaboration in the field. These same organizations are involved in selecting the winning ideas.
Moi, je pense que un jeune ne peut pas rater cette occasion de s'exprimer. Parce que c'est une opportunité non seulement rare, originale et tout à fait efficace, utile. Donc on mêle l'utile à l'agréable. Pour moi, c'est l'idéal de pouvoir faire les deux en une fois et de façon libre.
Silence tout le monde! Tout le monde a son beat? Parfait. Action!
The Scenarios from Africa juries face the difficult but fascinating task of selecting the winning texts from among the thousands of creative works submitted during the contest. In a rigorous multi-step process, winning entries are first selected by juries in each country. And then the international jury comes together for a week to determine the 30 overall winners of the contest.
Ce scénario sera-t-il utile pour freiner la propagation du VIH et ou améliorera-t-il la vie des personnes vivant avec le virus?
After in-depth discussions on the selection criteria and methodologies, each juror receives a batch of text to read and mark on their own. In the national juries, every text is first read and marked by at least 2 different jurors, and by many more at the international level. On average, each juror examines over 600 pages of text, taking a unique, full immersion voyage of discovery through young Africans' thoughts and experiences in the area of HIV and AIDS. Then the debates begin, starting in groups of 2, then groups of 4, and finally in the full jury.
This scenario brings up the issue of exposure and infection and makes it clear and raises the question that exposure is one thing and infection is another thing.
The selection committees are gender balanced. People living with HIV are often in the majority. The juries are made up of specialists in HIV prevention, treatment and care, young people, especially winners of past contests, educators, sociologists, journalists, and filmmakers, including some who go on to create Scenarios from Africa films. The participation of people from a range of different fields creates a forum for rich, multidisciplinary debates. Jurors appreciate the selection process as an innovative, insightful method to evaluate the communication work around HIV/AIDS that has been carried out to date. Through their reading and debates, jurors are able to identify strengths and problem areas in the young authors' HIV-related knowledge and attitudes. The jurors then formulate specific ways to adjust the response to the epidemic so as to take young people's views and needs more fully into account.
Donc pour moi, c'est ça vraiment qui fait l'originalité même de scénario, parce que quelque part on sent qu'on est en train d'évaluer peut-être bien le travail que beaucoup d'acteurs ont fait pendant des années. Donc, ce que je vois ici, c'est vraiment ce que les jeunes perçoivent de l'infection VIH. Ce qu'ils comprennent de l'infection, en fait, c'est ça.
A key benefit of the contest is taken to an even deeper level during the winners' selection phase. Both the contest teams and the juries bring highly committed people from different backgrounds together to get to know each other and to lay the groundwork for future partnerships. The success of the Scenarios process in strengthening collaboration and creating lasting synergies among members of the AIDS response community is one of its most valuable accomplishments.
Je suis très contente. J'ai 12 ans.
Félicitations, félicitations.
Before one of the award-winning texts is turned into a Scenarios from Africa film, it goes through a unique, rigorous adaptation and evaluation process that is much like an epic match of table tennis with many players. The original text, as well as all subsequent drafts, is carefully cross-checked against key findings and recommendations contained in evaluation documents and project reports. These include external evaluations, studies of the effectiveness of existing scenarios films, ongoing feedback on the films from users across the globe, jurors' ideas for the adaptation of the text, and the jurors' observations and recommendations on the contest entries in general. In addition, other texts submitted on the same subject area are analysed, and relevant findings of the archive research team are taken into consideration. If jurors have identified particularly strong passages and ideas in 2 or more different texts, the adaptation team sometimes fuses those texts into one story. In that event, the authors of all texts involved are cited in the film's opening credits. Because of the support that I've found among others. Just as a lot of good can be done with a well-crafted film on HIV/AIDS, serious damage can be caused if all necessary precautions are not taken before a film on the subject is released. It is for these reasons that the Scenarios team places special emphasis on rigorous testing and evaluation during pre-production and production. Once the HIV technical team is satisfied that the original text has been successfully adapted in line with relevant Scenarios documents, it is ping-ponged over to the film's director, who turns it into a script. There is a good chance that that filmmaker was a member of the jury and is familiar with the original text and the jury's debates about it. The Scenarios marriage of the HIV technical world and the artistic world deepens.
Motor! Action!
The text is repeatedly referred back to the young author for critical comment and to ensure that the author feels respected and happy with the path the adaptation process is taking.
J'avais beaucoup d'appréhension sur la manière dont le texte allait être réadapté. Et j'avoue que j'étais quand même surprise. Je crois que les réadaptateurs ont fait un bon boulot.
Each new draft of the script is sent back to the filmmaker and the young author for comment. In addition, the script is forwarded to the central HIV technical team, to specialists in the main topic areas of the film, and to Scenarios' national coordinators and partners across the continent, who verify the relevance of the text to their countries and suggest improvements. The question is asked, does this script correspond optimally to their local context and needs? At different points during the adaptation process, the script is tested among focus groups of people living with HIV, which is a constant in the Scenarios process, and with other groups for whom the text in question is of particular interest. For example, draft scripts of the film Sexually Transmitted Marks, which is about teachers and students out to exchange sex for good marks in school, were pre-tested with groups of girls in secondary school, groups of parents of schoolgirls, and male secondary school teachers.
Or else.
This ping-pong match, which can take several months, often dictates the creation of draft 17 or even higher of a given script, and comes to an end only when everyone involved says, "Perfect, shoot it."
J'ai commencé déjà pour ma première fois à mettre les pieds sur un plateau de tournage pour voir se réaliser le scénario que moi j'avais imaginé. Et entre les mains de, pas des moindres, Idrissa Ouedraogo.
Action!
The Scenarios films are created by Africa's most celebrated filmmakers, including several winners of the Grand Prize for Best Film at FESPACO, the Oscars of the African continent. These directors in turn bring many of the region's finest actors, cinema technicians and musicians together to craft the Scenarios films.
She's in dialogue with the drummer.
Hello, my name is Newton Aduaka and I come from a very little village called Abagana in the southeastern part of Nigeria.
Even the eye going like that we can see, but all the time.
When you do make films, you owe it to the audience to sort of allow them to enjoy themselves while at the same time learning.
Okay, that's fine.
For me, it was a gift. It was simply a gift. I mean, I feel very good inside to put all my energy to make a film that will directly affect people's lives. It's one of those sort of things that you wish for. You know, these two films are going to be very important to me for a very long time because they're just simply beyond making films. They're lifesavers.
Scenarios from Africa produces an average of 3 short films per year. Each film is between 2 and 15 minutes long, with an average duration of about 6 minutes. In response to an ever-evolving epidemic, these films address current thematic priorities. The films vary widely in their artistic styles and tones. Some are comedies, others are profoundly moving.
A man who's brave.
Qui a de l'argent. Vos réactions dans un instant aux...
Je suis venue à Paris pour rencontrer Haroun, donc le réalisateur, et voir les premières images du film. Les premières impressions sur le film étaient très très positives. C'était quand même un choc de voir ce que j'avais écrit sur papier sur écran. Mais j'étais très ravie, donc je me dis que je suis très très chanceuse d'avoir donc déjà gagné ce concours et d'avoir rencontré des personnes qui sont aussi passionnées par leur métier. Je suis vraiment contente d'avoir participé à ce concours parce que ça m'a apporté beaucoup de bonnes choses.
Throughout the production process, the Scenarios team bears in mind the following guiding principles. People living with HIV/AIDS must always be portrayed in a positive light and with dignity. The goal of encouraging safe behaviors to avoid the virus must not be pursued at the expense of fostering optimism and joy of life among people living with HIV, and vice versa. The Scenarios films are not didactic message delivery tools, but rather triggers for reflection and dialogue. Local communities are best placed to identify and to collectively explore and resolve their own priority HIV-related issues in their own way. The films must help these communities and individuals to openly address and overcome harmful gender norms. However, the films must not address such issues in a manner that could cause a harmful backlash. By means of a constant dialogue between the production teams and on-site HIV advisors, the Scenarios marriage between the HIV technical world and the world of cinema is maintained, even deepened, throughout the film production process.
Je l'avais fait sans ça.
Chers amis, bonjour!
Scenarios partners and external evaluators constantly emphasize the need to make the films quickly available in as many languages as possible, especially major African languages. If the films were only in English, French and Portuguese, their value would be severely limited, especially among many of the most disadvantaged Africans and in rural areas.
Where are you going, son?
I'm going to fight AIDS, mother.
Nancy Osemi man.
The Scenarios films are lip-synced, meaning that the text of the new language version is recorded in such a way that it is synchronized with the actors' mouth movements. Lip-sync dubbing the films into the most widely spoken language in a given area dramatically increases the film's reach and usefulness, as audiences can understand them more easily and relate to them more profoundly.
Come out. Come on, AIDS. Where are you?
Subiri wewe.
Huyu ukimwi. Namtafuta ukimwi. Anajificha wapi?
At first, responding to the demand for local language versions of the films was not easy, as the required technical capacity either did not exist or was not yet sufficiently developed to produce high-quality dubs. Therefore, over the years, Scenarios has invested heavily in building professional dubbing capacity across Africa.
Okay, Malama.
Miawalu.
Oyai dada, omumigan.
Shoni owo.
Ha, ego. Waleno.
Agwụla. Ọ bụghị ibu. Ngwa nwekwara mgbochi.
Mgbochi? Mba, ma lee okwu ọma m nụ.
Chila ngwe. Ngekwe no ngome ngetandi na ngwe. Nanjikanda zikeko 8.
Etso kulipe ndimpe nambwa nena.
Don't you understand? It's from a virus. It can be in me or it can be in you. Here. See? This is a way you can fight it.
Today, some or all of the Scenarios films are available in more than 27 languages, including all of the ones highlighted here. Demand for new language versions continues to be strong. Over 2,000 languages are spoken in Africa. We are always keen to identify and pursue opportunities to make the Scenarios films available in more languages. The creation of local language versions of the Scenarios from Africa films is extremely economical. The cost of lip-sync dubbing a film is less than 5% of the cost of creating the original film. At the project website, you can find detailed information on Scenarios dubbing, including all of the documents and audiovisual materials you need to dub the films into a new language. Complete shoot scripts in English, French and Portuguese for the translator, comprehensive guideline documents on the dub process, the films themselves as broadcast quality QuickTime files, and the all-important music and effects track. If you would like to dub some or all of the films into your language, please go ahead. The Scenarios from Africa films are distributed in 3 main ways: on DVDs to those working at community level, on television, and via the internet. The films are distributed for free, and independent copying and further sharing of the films are enthusiastically encouraged. So far, over 100,000 original copies of the Scenario films have been shipped, reaching people in every country of Africa and in over 55 other nations across the globe. In addition, many recipients of the films have reported making copies, thousands in some cases, for further distribution to members of their own networks. Different regional DVD sets of the Scenarios from Africa films are available, each containing all of the films produced to date and a number of language tracks to click on and choose from. The DVD sets also include Word and Excel files to help users select those films that might best suit their needs and to facilitate post-screening discussions. The Scenarios from Africa DVDs are used especially by local aid service organizations, which incorporate the films into their awareness-raising activities, advocacy work, and support efforts on behalf of people living with HIV. Counselors often show certain Scenarios films when helping a person cope with the news that their HIV test has come back positive.
Du soutien que j'ai trouvé chez d'autres. Leur amour a changé ma vie complètement. Ce matin, par exemple, mon fils de 5 ans.
The Scenarios DVD sets are also used by businesses for in-house training and community outreach programs.
Tina Entreprise, qui était un projet de l'USAID qui travaillait dans la microfinance, avait pensé qu'on pouvait utiliser dans les caisses de mutuelles d'épargne et de crédit les scénarios comme support, mais on pourrait mettre autre chose.
The films are also used by NGOs operating in a wide range of fields, including human rights and the advancement of girls and women, organizations working with refugees and immigrants, governmental and intergovernmental agencies, and in schools, in sex education, science, and language classes.
ça intéresse non seulement les élèves, mais même le personnel enseignant. Et à chaque fois qu'une projection est programmée, nous constatons que c'est dans une salle comble et souvent on nous en demande et on nous en redemande encore.
Organizations integrate the films into their activities and programs in countless different ways. They tend to view Scenarios from Africa as part of their own work, as opposed to something separate. In disadvantaged urban areas, the Scenarios films are often screened in local languages at so-called neighborhood video cinemas. Increasingly popular and now numbering in the thousands, such cinemas often consist of a TV, a DVD player, and benches in a family courtyard. Mobile cinemas such as Cinomad in Burkina Faso are crucial Scenarios from Africa allies, as they bring the films to people living in remote rural villages, many of which have no electricity or access to television. Over 1 million Burkinabe, some 10% of the country's population, have benefited from Cinomad's interactive film evenings on HIV/AIDS. Internal and external evaluation, as well as a steady flow of email feedback, reveals that the Scenarios from Africa films help organizations to achieve their self-defined objectives in the areas of prevention and of countering HIV-related stigma and discrimination. The films have proven to be especially effective as triggers of discussions that allow organizations to gain a more in-depth understanding of the perspectives and concerns of the people they serve. On the continent and beyond, the films are used to fight for greater awareness of and commitment to the African AIDS epidemic.
To have these medicines.
On met tous les soirs à 23h sur TV5.
Television stations receive Scenarios from Africa films on a rights-free basis. In return, they broadcast the films for no charge. The Scenarios from Africa films are shown on locally based stations in almost every country of sub-Saharan Africa. They are also broadcast by leading international satellite stations such as TV5 and RTP, and by stations serving African refugees and immigrants in Europe and North America. To date, more than 120 stations have shown Scenarios films, reaching over 200 million viewers.
Moi,
je trouve que c'est une bonne idée de se centraliser sur l'Afrique. Parce qu'en Europe, là, les gens ont plus de liberté pour s'exprimer. Ils parlent beaucoup plus de sexualité et tout. Alors qu'en Afrique, c'est un sujet qui est tabou. Et les gens regardent très souvent la télé. Donc, ça donne l'occasion d'en parler. Même si c'est pour un petit instant, on en parle quand même. C'est une bonne idée.
Broadcasters often incorporate Scenarios films into shows they produce themselves. In addition, Scenarios films are often broadcast during prime time, such as just before the evening news, in the middle of popular sitcoms or soap operas, or immediately before or at half-time of World Cup and African Cup of Nations football matches. Especially in the run-up to World AIDS Day, many broadcasters count on Scenarios from Africa to provide new, engaging material on key current HIV-related topics.
Okay, bye.
See you.
The number of Africans with access to high-speed internet is increasing at a remarkable rate. It won't be long before the average young African, just like her or his counterpart in the United States and Europe, becomes a voracious consumer of online video. Internet sexual predators have wasted no time in seizing opportunities opening up to them in Africa. And on the continent, as elsewhere, porn websites that often show images of unsafe behaviors are popular among many web surfers. It is essential that these young people be reached today with appealing and effective HIV-related messages and given spaces for healthy dialogue via the internet. Scenarios from Africa is vigorously exploring ways to use emergent internet opportunities to increase the use and utility of the films and to cut distribution costs. At this early stage, the Scenarios films are already being viewed well over 1,000 times a day on the web, and that figure is increasing rapidly. The current strategy has 4 different components. First, posting the films in numerous languages on popular video sites such as YouTube. Second, uploading the films to websites hosted in Africa and dedicated to specific countries, regions, or languages. This is quickly emerging as an extremely effective way to increase internet exposure of the films. Third, responding favorably to requests from partner organizations that would like to upload some or all of the scenarios films to their own websites. Fourth, creating new websites from which it is possible to stream and download all the films in all available languages. To visit these sites, please visit www.globaldialogues.org and follow the links. Once Scenarios from Africa films have been downloaded from the web, they can easily be shared using USB memory sticks, an attractive option in settings where burning DVD copies is not feasible. The Global Dialogues website also contains detailed information on the films and supporting documentation. In post-contest evaluative studies, young people are asked why they took part in the Scenarios from Africa script writing competition. The most common answer by far is that they want to speak out and express their thoughts and feelings about HIV/AIDS, and they want their voices to be heard. Their voices are heard, indeed listened to very carefully throughout the Scenarios from Africa process. Partner organizations are asked about ways in which the contest, winner selection phase, and films help them to improve their work. They highlight the fact that the Scenarios process allows them to gain a much better understanding of the perspectives and needs of the young people they serve. When it comes to capacity development, is there anything more fundamental? This concept of listening to young people, learning from them, and drawing lessons to improve the response to HIV is also at the heart of innovative research conducted by a team of investigators based at Emory University's Rollins School of Public Health in Atlanta, with funding from the US National Institutes of Health. The research team uses cutting-edge techniques to conduct an in-depth analysis of the stories submitted in the Scenarios from Africa contests. The long-term objective of the current study is to improve HIV/AIDS communication programs for young people in sub-Saharan Africa by increasing understanding of the socio-cultural context of youth sexual behavior.
Now this scenario also raises the question about the role of alcohol as a predisposing factor towards HIV infection. We also know that young people are the most vulnerable because at the age at which they are young, they are seeking love, they are receiving love, and they are trying to define relationships.
Research questions are formulated with reference to the observations and recommendations of jury members. Thanks to fellowships from Emory's Global Health Institute, members of the Scenarios from Africa team have collaborated on the research while studying and sharing their experiences at Emory University. The research findings are shared with others involved in the response to HIV in sub-Saharan Africa, and they are also applied in the various phases of the Scenarios process. Study findings play a key role in determining the topics to be focused on in the next contest, as well as in formulating specific guidelines for contest mentors and other team members. Informing the text adaptation process in the run-up to film production, and developing the film discussion guides and other facilitation materials. To date, Scenarios from Africa has succeeded at building a strong foundation made of 3 main accomplishments. The creation of a process that has proven particularly useful for fostering synergies and a spirit of collaboration in the response to HIV, and for helping organizations to gain a more profound understanding of the people they serve. The production and global distribution of a unique collection of audiovisual tools by Africa's premier filmmakers in over 27 languages, and constructing an international multidisciplinary team of singularly talented and dedicated people. With every step Scenarios from Africa takes, additional paths for the process to realize its full potential are discovered. Each question answered gives rise to several more. As this young millennium enters its second decade, new challenges and opportunities are emerging for the response to AIDS in Africa. In line with expressed demand and recommendations formulated by partners and external evaluators, the Scenarios from Africa process is poised to be deepened, expanded, and enhanced in a number of ways. The next scenario script writing competitions will feature an intensification of mentored participation, whereby small groups of especially vulnerable young people take part in the contest in dialogue with a trained counselor or guide, greater use of the internet as a means to advertise the contest, to direct participants towards credible sources of information on the web, and to encourage dialogue among participants and partner organizations. Scenarios has succeeded at building a strong network of interpersonal relationships. We will now create an even broader Scenarios from Africa virtual community. The members of Scenarios from Africa juries will organize national fora with key stakeholders to share the insights they gain from reading and discussing the contest entries submitted by their country's young people. As the epidemic and the response to it change, Scenarios films will continue to address current thematic priorities of the day. For the first time, production will take place in Eastern and in Southern Africa. The films will increasingly incorporate interactive components. Scenarios language dubbing will focus on major gaps, including native languages of South Africa. More guidance and training will be provided to help Scenarios film users to get the most out of post-screening discussions. The Scenarios team will explore and pursue a wide range of internet distribution strategies with a view to optimizing the film's value as electronic dialogue triggers and as international advocacy tools. Analysis of the stories submitted during the Scenarios from Africa contests will be intensified and thematically diversified. Through a growing range of web-based channels, the study findings will be distributed in a targeted manner to those involved in AIDS advocacy and in the development and implementation of communication programs. For further information on Scenarios from Africa, please visit our website at www.globaldialogues.org or send us an email at info@globaldialogues.org.
J'avais envie d'écrire donc une histoire d'amour où l'un des personnages était touché par la maladie. Ce que je voulais vraiment dire dans mon scénario, c'est que si vous connaissez quelqu'un autour de vous qui est atteint de la maladie, surtout ne le rejetez pas et acceptez tel qu'il est parce que c'est toujours la même personne, celle que vous avez rencontrée avant, c'est la même personne sauf qu'elle est atteinte d'une maladie maintenant et que peut-être que maintenant elle a encore plus besoin de votre amour et de votre courage et de votre soutien. C'est pas un obstacle. Qu'on peut toujours aimer les gens et que les gens restent les mêmes avec ou sans la maladie. C'est le message que je voulais faire passer.
He's a great man. He's my man. I wouldn't change a moment of our story. By the way, our story has only just begun.